The year 2022 was super exciting for me and the Route 21 Garage channel. Starting at the beginning, on the 3rd of January, my channel was monetized. And guys, that's thanks to you for subscribing and watching. And that gave me the opportunity and opened some doors to travel internationally and bring you even better content. Now, I had the opportunity to ride British bikes, German, Italian, all sorts of bikes all over the country, from Johannesburg to Cape Town to Durban. I toured, I traveled, I reviewed. It was just brilliant. At the end of this episode, I'd like to share with you my 3 favorite bikes of 2022, maybe why, exciting, what it was, and just share my thoughts on that. And in the middle of the year, I got the opportunity to travel overseas to Italy to World Ducati Week, brought you those 3 days while there, gave me the opportunity to get some signatures on merchandise, helmets, models for my Route 21 museum. While there, because I love anything and everything motorcycle related, I hunted down the Italian motorcycle manufacturer museums, brought you a couple of episodes from that, and then came back to South Africa, played around on bikes and brought you some great episodes from that. And then at the end of the year, I had it lined up to travel overseas to Berlin, and I had my ticket to go to the BMW Motorrad Berlin plant as well as museum, bring you an episode from that. However, sitting at the airport international departure here, I got the email from BMW Motorrad, sadly, that due to supply chain problems and production problems, they had to cancel my visit. However, I was going anyway. So when I landed in Berlin, I hunted down things motorcycle related. One of the episodes I brought you from there was I found the Museum of the East Bloc Motorcycle Manufacturers. And the story on that is quite cool, because after the Second World War, the Iron Curtain, East and Germany, West Germany were separated, and the motorcycle manufacturers in the East were isolated. They didn't have access to technology and designs from the West. So it was just fascinating to see their designs veer away from the Western designs as we know it, and brought you that episode, and I hope you enjoyed that one. But let's go and have a look at the highlights of 2022, and let's hope 23 is just as exciting, if not more. Towards the end of 2021, I retired my everyday bike, my go-to bike, my mule, which was a 2003 launch model Ducati Multistrada 1000 DS. No, I didn't sell her after 18 years and 132,000 kilometers. I decided to detail her, service her one last time, and then mothball her and put her on display in my Route 21 Garage Museum. Having done many reviews on adventure bikes, I finally decided that the replacement should be the BMW GS 1250 HP Adventure. I did numerous reviews telling the story where it started, GS Gentleman Scrambler, and going right the way through to the 40th anniversary, the Bumblebee colors, and so forth. After having picked up my GS, I did a review on a very special Moto Guzzi, the Daytona 1000. I then had a look at a classic, a 1969 very early Moto Guzzi V7, and that Moto Guzzi V7 story started in 1967, and they are still produced as a V7 shaft drive transverse V motor. Then we had a look at the Flying Fortress, the Moto Guzzi MGX 21 Flying Fortress, the Italian bagger, all in carbon. After that, we took a BMW R18 first edition. That is BMW's first foray into this open cruiser bobber. As you can see, shaft drive, nickel plated, really stunning way for BMW to enter this market and segment, harking back to their early R35s. As you can see, first edition keyless start bikes. After that, I looked at and reviewed a crazy bike, the Triumph Rocket 3 2.5 litre, a monster of a bike, but also exhilarating. It was one of my favorite reviews. If you see this triple header pipe coming out of the side of this motor, reminded me of the Spitfire as it came out in the front. That was an absolutely wild ride. This power 220 Newton meters is absolutely insane.
Then we tested and rode the V85 TT by Moto Guzzi. This is also, as you can see, the original transverse layout to the frame motor, the only adventure bike with shaft drive that is under 1000 cc. After that, I had a look and reviewed one of my additions to my Route 21 museum, being the original BMW R90. I added some pinstripes to hark back to the old days. Thereafter, I added the single seat cowl at the back to make it look very racy, and also just emulating the older bikes. Here you see the old classic dashboard as they were launched in 2013, celebrating 90 years. Here then I reviewed the final edition of the Aprilia RSV4 Factory. This is the swan song of the original bike that was launched in 2008-2009. As you can see, heaps of carbon fiber, final trimmings, definitely a future classic, the swan song RSV4. After that I traveled down to Cape Town as I was invited to the launch of the brand new 2021 Aprilia RSV4 and RSV4 Factory. I had the privilege to be the first in the country to actually go test ride and review this absolutely stunning bike in lava red. Back in Johannesburg, I jumped onto my new go-to bike, the GS 1250, and went for a tour around Southern Africa and especially Eastern and Western Cape, going through 36 mountain passes. Here going through one of the favorite passes from George to Oudtshoorn. The climb up the hill through the mountain passes, absolutely stunning. Magnificent country to tour on a motorcycle. As you can see, the countryside and the landscape, ever changing, but stunning roads, stunning weather, just absolutely beautiful. And here we're going into one of my other favorite passes that ends up going through what looks like a canyon with little rivers, and this road is winding through this canyon forever. Back in Johannesburg again, I rode and reviewed the two Triumph Speed Triples, the RS and the all-new RR. After that, I had a look at the Triumph Bonneville Bobber. Also, very classic bike, love the way it looks retro, but is an ultra-modern bike, yet feels and looks like the old school bobbers. Then I had a look at a bike that I called a Grand Slam. It is a Triumph Thruxton R. Have a look at this. British bike, Triumph, British racetrack, Thruxton, and a very famous British colour in the British racing green called Competition Green. Then we looked at the muscle bike by the Italians, Moto Guzzi Audace for audacious, all in carbon, massive 1400 cc motor fitted transversely in oil cooled traditional Moto Guzzi shaft drive, and there you see the shaft drive, very gutsy muscle bike by the Italians. Here we have a classic Moto Guzzi V7 Racer first edition, stunning chrome tank, and the leather suede seat Alcantara. Absolutely eye candy, this motorcycle. As you can see, the brown leather strap, the chrome tank reflecting. If you hunch down, that little Perspex fly screen, What an experience. Then we compared it to the Moto Guzzi V7 Roman numeral 3, which means 3rd edition racer of 2020. As you can see, open-ended limited production, numbered bike, and that thing runs right off the clock down in Cape Town. Next up, we looked at the BMW Superbike, the 1000S, the RR, the M Sport package. What a beast. The power on this thing, definitely inspired by BMW M Sport. Next, I was back in Cape Town again, and yet again IMI, the Italian motorcycle importers, gave me the privilege of being the first in the country to ride and test the Aprilia Touareg 660. All new bike, a crossover between a motocross enduro bike and adventure bike. Staying in Cape Town and the 660cc by Aprilia, getting onto the Tuono 660, which is a naked RS 660. It definitely goes as well as it looks and is an enemy to knee sliders. Then I was invited by BMW 4Ways, who entered a competition by BMW South Africa to take the BMW R18 and customize it. As you can see, stripped down naked, that big motor. Here you can see the Evolution, the petrol tank, original one, being modified. And they had a limited budget. Here you can see the clocks mounted in. There's the final edition, absolutely exquisite with a limited budget. What can you do with the R18? Next up, I had a look at the Sport Tourer by BMW, the R1250 RT. Also, really surprised me. This is an all-round sport tourer that caters for your every need, luxuries and storage ample. A real fantastic motorcycle. Then I went back to Triumph in Santon and I tested and rode the two Triumph Tiger 900s, the Rally Pro here in white versus the GT Pro, more street focused Tiger 900 adventure bikes. After that, I joined Triumph for the official launch of the bigger brother, the Triumph Tiger 1200s. Now this is an all-round competent adventure bike in a street guys, adventure guys, larger tank, smaller tank, shaft drive, absolutely full house adventure bike. Going back to Cape Town, visiting my good mate Martin that restores old Italian classics, doing an update on his restoration of his Moto Guzzi Zigolo of 1959. As you can see, started off as a complete wreck. I didn't have much hope for it, but here you can see stunning restoration. I even got to ride that Zigolo down in Cape Town, and then I took her to Blaubergstrand with the Table Mountain in the background and did a full review and story and history of this Moto Guzzi Zigolo. Back in Johannesburg, I got onto the Moto Guzzi V7 Stone E5. E5 for Euro 5. As you remember, earlier in the year, I reviewed the 1969 V7, and here is the latest offering, the 2022 Moto Guzzi V7 Stone E5. Then I flew over to Italy middle of the year in July to the World Ducati Week 2022. That is on every 2 years, and I've visited the previous 5 World Ducati Weeks, and what a blast. Here you can see all Ducatis, the Ducatisti from all over the world, meeting at the Misano World Circuit de Marco di Simoncelli, and what a festival of passion, speed and red. Meeting some of the famous riders here, Troy Bayliss signing my model, and other MotoGP and World Superbike stars signing and autographing. And here you have Alvaro Bautista signing the official Ducati posters, signing my cap. The traditional selfie had to be done. Here's my poster and cap signed by him. And these are all things I collected for my Route 21 museum. Did some bike spotting here, a 2006 Paul Smart, signed here a 888 Ducati SP5, and here the Mike Hellwood Evoluzione in a competition carbon body. Then traveled up to Bologna and reviewed the Ducati Museum, shared that with you, the museum from the inside with all the gems that mark that stunning history of Ducati. Here is the original Paul Smart bike that won in 1972. Here the Mike Hellwood Isle of Man TT winner, and here are MotoGP bikes. Casey Stoner's 2007 MotoGP World Championship winning bike. Behind that, the Xerox 1098R Ducati that won the third championship for Troy Bayliss. Next, I went to Lake Como and it's not traditional but very famous Red Gate, Mandello dell'Ario, the home and birthplace of Moto Guzzi, that famous Red Gate. A place I wanted to visit for a long time here, one of the many halls with all the old classics, stunning and beautifully restored. Really a treat to go through these halls and see the evolution of the bikes by Moto Guzzi. Here, one of the most valuable ones, the V7 Sport. Yes, another one in the V7 history. Here is the holy grail of motorcycles, the 1955 500cc Grand Prix racer V8. Yes, a V8 motorcycle racer. Only 6 ever produced in the world. Then I traveled to the north of Italy and I found the museum for MV Agusta. As you can see, the entrance, Museo Agusta. As I walked in, you see the rich history, this company starting its life in the aviation. There are some Agusta helicopters with the blades out of the ground. But once inside, I found what I was looking for, the MV Agustas that won everything after the war in the 50s and 60s. The bikes that were raced by Surtees, Halewood, Agostini. Absolutely exquisite. Back in South Africa, I then tested and rode the 2 Triumph Trident 660 versus the Tiger Sport 660. 2 completely different offerings by Triumph to get into motorcycling, and having the same platform and same motors, yet completely different motorcycles. Next up, I tested the Moto Guzzi V9 bobber. Now, this is the first time we officially got a Moto Guzzi V9 into the country. I test rode and reviewed the bobber, and after that I was asked by IMI, the Italian motorcycle importers, to help them ride their V9s down to Cape Town. Yes, they had both V9s, the Roma here in silver in front and the black bobber at the back. Now, this is an adventure that took us from Johannesburg to Cape Town, 1,400 kilometers in 2 days. First day 1,000 kilometers from Johannesburg to Beaufort West, and the next day the final 400 kilometers into Cape Town. Here you can see the black bobber with the big chunky 16-inch wheel up front. There the silver Roma, more comfortable with the skinnier, larger front wheel. Definitely the best way to test a motorcycle over 1,000 kilometers. Here you can see standing up, fairly comfortable, and really nice way to see how a bike works over long distance. Yes, we rode them till they were empty to see the full range. Final stretch, second day, beautiful South African sunrise, and what an adventure. Just before we got to Cape Town, I did my final thoughts and reviews of these 2 bikes side by side, and here we finally got into Cape Town. Next up, I tested and reviewed the Triumph Speed Twin. Now, this must be Triumph's best kept secret. It is an absolute sleeper and surprised me. You have to go and test this bike. After the Speed Twin, I test rode and reviewed the Street Twin. Now again, this must be Triumph's best-selling motorcycle, and here I got to test her in a very special livery, the EC1. I shared the story, why, and what it stands for. Next up, I rode the Aprilia RSV4 based V4 Tuono. Then I had the privilege of taking part for the uncrating of the one and only Aprilia RS 660 limited edition Stars and Stripes. Only one came into South Africa. We uncrated this beauty, and what a stunning motorcycle. Then the owner also gave me the privilege of having the first test ride after PDI. Next up, I reviewed another very special bike, the Ducati 916 Senna of 1994. Now this is a bike of many legends, and as you can see, very rare bike, only 300 produced, numbered bike on the triple clamp, and first legend in the story would be the famous F1 star Ayrton Senna, after whom the bike was named. Next up, Taglioni, who designed this famous Desmodromic motor. Next up, Tamburini, who designed the stunning 916. And the next legend would be Carl Fogarty, who won on this famous bike in its maiden years, 94-95, the Ducati 916 Senna. And next up, another limited edition I reviewed, and this time a Moto Guzzi V85 TT, the Guard of Honor, Guardia d'Onore. This was a motorcycle to celebrate in the original colors how Moto Guzzi replaced the official cavalry horses for the Guard of Honor for the President of Italy. As you can see, number 401 of 1946, and 1946 is the year when they started replacing horses with motorcycles. Here, some nice trinkets you get with the bike, a complete book with commemorative stamps and certificates. Next, I traveled to Germany, Berlin to be more precise, to the Brandenburger Tor, Berlin Wall. In this episode, took you through the town, some famous places here where the remnants are of the Berlin Wall. Here's the longest surviving segment of the Berlin Wall, still standing today, the famous Checkpoint Charlie. And that took me to the Motorcycle Museum of DDR or GDR. Over 130 motorcycles on display, and these are motorcycles after the World War, with the Iron Curtain that really got left behind in designs and veered off in their own way. Here you have a Berlin scooter. Next up, Eisenacher, which is a direct copy of the BMW R35 back in the day, and you can see they then veered off. Here is an exact copy just after the war. Here you have Scheunenfunde, which is barn finds from the east side of Germany. Here you have some bikes, some scramblers, some racers, MZs, Simpsons, all the different motorcycles. Here you even have some military motorcycles of that era. Next, we were back in Johannesburg and tested the Triumph Scrambler, but this time we rode the all-new 2022 Scrambler 900. After the Scrambler, I looked at another Triumph, rode and reviewed this one. It must be one of Hollywood's favorites. In the Bonneville, the one I tested was the T120 Black. And in this episode, I had a look why Triumph came up with the name the Bonneville, also the designation T100 and T120, how they came about and what they stand for. Then during one of my visits at Triumph in Sandton, one of their customers actually gave me the opportunity to test and ride his Triumph Motor 2 Daytona. And what a privilege. This is a limited edition bike from a few years ago, all sold out, and I never got to test these. I've seen them in the flesh, and what a treat. The whole thing is carbon fiber with the Arrows pipe. It sounds like a Moto 2 pipe. Absolutely exquisite. What a privilege to have been given this opportunity, and I definitely used this opportunity with both hands and had a blast. After this Moto 2 experience, I went over to Biker Warehouse and got to test and ride and review my very first Husqvarna. Having reviewed a couple of adventure bikes, I got to test the Husqvarna Norden 901. And in this episode, I discussed the full history, the racing pedigree and everything of Husqvarna. Very busy and checkered past, but fantastic motorcycle. And this Norden has a very individual look. It's based on the KTM, being a sister company to KTM, but definitely not a replica of KTM. Is very individual and a very competent adventure bike. After that, I stayed with Husqvarna and went to test ride the 701 Enduro. And this was also a bit of a surprise, as it is more of a motocross bike, very hard focused off-road bike, like a plastics bike, but stunning, competent, and also one of those bikes that completely misbehaved on. Back at Moto Guzzi, I took part of the uncrating of the final of the 6 MGX Flying Fortresses that came into the country, and I wanted to see what she looks like as she comes out of a crate. Produced in 2018, finally uncrated in 2022, and here she is seeing daylight. The owner once again gave me the privilege of doing the first ride after the pre-delivery inspection, and what a privilege. What an Italian beast and a bagger. So American inspiration with Italian flair. Have a look at those speakers fitted into the Batmobile wings either side of that stunning dash. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I promised you I would share with you my favorite 3 bikes that I rode and reviewed in 2022, and in first place must be the Triumph Rocket 3. At 2.5 liters, there's no sense, rhyme or reason why you would produce a motorcycle like this with 220 Newton meters on tap. But this is the bike that'll remind you why we ride motorcycles. If you've forgotten why we ride, get onto this motorcycle. What a blast. I nicknamed this the Mustang of motorcycles, the muscle bike of muscle bikes. It is absolutely an experience to behold, and I think my favorite riding experience of 2022. Now, in second place for the year 2022 bike rides and reviews, I would put this limited edition Aprilia RS 660 Stars and Stripes. And the reason I put this bike in second place would be from sheer good looks, cosmetics. I mean, this bike looks like a supermodel walking down the cat ramp. The colors, the way it pops, it is just an absolutely exquisite bike and a sculpture. In third place, I would put the Triumph Speed Twin. And the reason I put this bike in third place would be that it was a complete surprise package. This is the sleeper. Even when I threw my leg over this bike, I thought, okay, just a Bonneville. However, this is a super bike clothed as a Bonneville. So you think a retro classic, but it feels like a hardcore super bike. Absolutely phenomenal experience. I recommend you go and test ride one of these. If you would like to watch any of these episodes that I've reviewed in here, I've listed them in different playlists, so it's very easy to find them. You just go to the playlist and have a look at museum, bike tours, trips, customs, reviews, bikes, specials, and you will quickly find the episode you're looking for.
I hope you guys enjoyed this 2022 review and highlights of the Route 21 Garage channel. And please guys, if you did, give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. But most important of all, please hit that subscribe button to help me build the channel so I can bring you even more exciting content from maybe even further afield. And let's hope 23 is even more exciting than 22 was.